Hello, everybody. How's everybody feeling? How was the morning? Good for you. By the lack of the enthusiastic responses, I gather that you are starting to get hungry. So our panel is called, just to make sure I'm having this right, the world's best hummus, Israel recipe for innovation, otherwise called as the last panel between you and lunch. So with me, there is a very respectable panel. My name is Lior Yekoutieli. I'm on my day job. I'm heading the open innovation at Samsung in R&D in Israel. But I'm here with the hat of an advisory board member at EdTech Israel, who put together this excellent conference. So let's start by our panelists, and we will start with a question for each one of the members of the team, just to present themselves, who they are, what they do. And there's one question, how do you define innovation? What's innovation for you? So let's start.
Hello, my name is Shakuf. I'm with Chegg. I manage Chegg Israel. We do mostly mobile development for Chegg. Chegg is a company that focuses on students and gives various solutions, including buying and renting books. Whatever question you have from the book, we have step-by-step solutions to it. We have 50,000 experts that can give you answers to any question you have. Internships, scholarships, and math help. And regarding innovation, I think the one thing that makes a difference in my mind that is changing from developing a product is the ability to say yes. I think we as an Israeli startup nation, and I get it a lot from the US side, whenever they come to us and ask a question, whether we can do something, we say yes. And then from there, building something, getting our heads around it, finding different solutions, this is the innovation. But in order to enable it, you got to say yes first.
Thank you. Baat?
Hi, my name is Baat. I'm with Intuit, which is a company that develops financial software mostly for small businesses and consumers in the US and globally. I spent my first few years at Intuit in Silicon Valley in the innovation group, and then was relocated over here to help build an R&D center. And so I'm in charge both of external activities and internal innovation. And for the definition of innovation, I'm actually going to turn it to you and ask you to take 10 seconds and think if you understand or know the difference between the word invention and innovation. And if you do, raise your hand. Because it was the first, okay, so 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Anyone else? We have 2 people in the audience who really feel like they understand the difference. And there's many definitions, by the way, out there that describe the difference, but in today's terms, invention is something new has been created, and innovation is the ability to make it better so that people want to use it. That's the definition, bringing it to market. And I think this is very key to this discussion, because we're talking about how do we create processes that improve an invention so that it becomes an innovation.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Ofer Zafrany. I am the head of innovation and entrepreneurship centers in Amal network. And another job that I have, I'm the principal of the Amal school in the North Galilee, the multidisciplinary school in the name of the Menachem Begin. And my definition to innovation as an educator is keeping up with the changes and the challenges that we all experience from time to time. And if I want to be more specific, because I'm talking about the educational system, I'm talking about adopting models and methods that will fit the challenges that we have in our society and to reduce the gap between what we are dealing with in school to the real world. This is for me the definition for innovation.
Thank you. Andy.
Hello. So I'm Andy David. You have the definition of my role on the board there. It's too long. I need to change the definition. I think it doesn't go into my business card. I'm a career diplomat with the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Been doing that for 20 years. Until recently, I was the Consul General of Israel in San Francisco and the Pacific Northwest. Basically, Startup Nation's ambassador to Silicon Valley. And now I'm the director of this department. It's a new unit in the Foreign Ministry. What do? I'm trying to rearrange or to redefine the connection between economy or technology and foreign affairs or diplomacy, in the sense that traditionally we looked at foreign relations or diplomacy as how it can help the economy. My role is to try and strategically look at the opposite. How can we use the asset that we created here in Israel in the form of innovation and technology, entrepreneurship and all that, to support our foreign relations and our diplomacy efforts? My definition of innovation, I'll go the opposite. What is not innovation? If your parents understand it, it's not innovation.
That's a good one. So I'll start with you, Baat, with the first question. You're working for a multinational company, quite big by now, I think around 8,000 employees, a bit more, with presence across the world, and you spent quite a lot of time outside of Israel, mainly in the US. How do you see the difference in the approach to innovation between what we have here in Israel and what's in the rest of the world, specifically US?
Excellent question. So before I was with Intuit, I was a part of a team that built a accelerator in Silicon Valley before this amazing boom. And one of our mentors, or one of the key people we built it on, was Eric Ries. You guys have been pitched today about Lean Startup maybe 5 times. He's the author of that book and the guru of the movement. The movement, in a nutshell, basically tells startups, stop doing things the way you did, which is go develop a product, go down to the basement for 6 months, and then surface and ask who wants to buy this. Instead, don't write a single line of code or develop a product until you are 100% sure you know somebody wants it. At the beginning, you're going to find 1 person who wants it. Afterwards, you'll find 10 people who want it, and then 100, and then 1,000. And the idea is to walk through iterations constantly, but always making sure people are going to buy, and want meaning buy, not just nodding or filling out a survey saying, yes, this sounds like a great idea. And so I've been brainwashed in this, and then I showed up in Israel, and in my first year I met 100 startups. And it was very systematic the way I was approached. It was a team, fairly early, 1 or 2 founders, who would come to me with pretty mature technology, trying to figure out what kind of problem I have that they may solve. And at first I was taken aback. I was like, wait, why did you write so much code? How come you have such a product already if you don't know that I really need this product? And it dawned on me only after 100 startups maybe, that they actually, in Israel, technology is created, a lot of it in the military. I was very focused on cybersecurity at that point. And people come out of the military with, a bucket of big technology, and they're encouraged by everyone, by the government, by the army itself, to commercialize on it. And so they walk through a different process than Silicon Valley, for example, companies. They pitch it differently. I mean, they're tested on the technology differently by VCs and things like that. So this is the biggest, gap, just difference that I saw between the two.
Okay, Shahaf, a similar question to you, with a little bit a different perspective, since Chegg is a relatively young company. We're established in 2005 and growing fast. How do you see innovation? What's unique in the innovation processes that you do here in Israel?
So I think first is allocating time to it. You got to be in a place where you, as a manager, allocate time. You will never get time from your manager to innovation. So we find, and we actually define the processes where we do innovation. You find it when someone is coming for a visit. You just prepare lots of POC. And you always try to align that with the business goals of the company and trying to find influence the product in a way that the innovation is always part of it. And then you create the atmosphere that Israel is a place of innovation. This is what everyone sees, because if you put your mind to it, this is what you look from your programmers, from your designers, from your product persons, then this is what you actually get. So if you want innovation in your company, you gotta act, you gotta state the time, ask the right questions, and drive it forward, and not sit and wait for someone to give it to you. This is what we are actually doing.
And you see the difference between what's happening and the company itself? Values the difference?
One of the aspects of it was actually two things. One is that we were called the Center of Excellence, because this is how we operate. So we put a deadline, we act on it, but we are also thinking holistically around the product. We're also trying to improve it all the time. So this is one thing out of it. And the second is that you see a big difference between how Israeli relate to the product, or at least my group relating to the product, versus other groups around the world. We have offices around the world. And you can't say that this is like good people versus, not so good people. Everyone is great and they're great engineers. The mindset is around, how can I make my product better? If you ask this question, then you have innovation in your hand.
Great. Thank you. Go to you, Ofer. We have here two multinational, technology companies. We have here the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we have the education system, Ofer coming from Amal Education Network. So you're both a customer of innovation, trying to embrace innovation into the education system, and but you're also in charge of a program to create entrepreneurs and to encourage innovation. How do you do that at Amal?
First of all, we understand in Amal that we have responsibility in our school to prepare our students to the real world. And we understand that the real world is different. It's not that we are in a time that when we were a student, it's only a class and a board and a presentation and computers. It's much more. And if we want to prepare our students to the real world, we have to change the way we do it. We start from the way that we think about how we teach in school. We do not teach only traditionally. We use methods like PBL, project-based learning. We learn from different places. We go until San Diego, and we learn from them how can we change the perception of learning. And of course, 7 years ago, Dr. Ashkenazi mentioned it before, we was the first educational system that established entrepreneurship centers, because we understand that if we will not connect our students during the time they are still students to the real world, if we will not collaborate with companies, with different technologies, if we will not change the atmosphere and the environment inside the school, we built spaces that look like spaces in Microsoft or Google. You need to see it, because we believe that the environment influences the way the students think. And I want to tell you another thing, because we understand the potential of being the student and to expose the student to entrepreneurship and to innovation, because, we are saying a lot of bad things about our youth, that they are rude and they are breaking the rules and they don't know to get disciplines. But I think that this is the exact advantage that we use when we think about thinking out of the box. We want them inside our centers to think out of the rules. We want them to be rude. We take all this disadvantage and we are transferring them into advantages, and we have a wonderful achievement during these 7 years. 3 or 4 years ago, the Minister of Education, after they saw what we do, start to duplicate what we are doing. A lot of educational net do that, but we were the first. Actually, the CEO of Amal, Rabin, was the one that thought about the ideas. And we believe that bringing into the school this new environment, exposing our students to businessmen, to researchers, collaborating with companies, technologies companies like Apple and Microsoft, this is the right way to prefer them to the real world.
Excellent. Thank you. That's innovation. Andy, coming from the government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs perspective, when you look at the environment of entrepreneurship or the ecosystem here in Israel, of innovation here in Israel, what kind of tools the government, the Israeli government in general, is giving entrepreneurs in order to, people in general, in order to foster innovation and encourage innovation?
Well, the question reminds me of a story about a person who drives through the streets of Tel Aviv and he's really late for a meeting, and he starts looking upwards, and says, "Dear God, if I find parking in the next minute, I'm going to call my mother every day, I'm going to wear the sweater that she bought me, and I'm going to fast on Yom Kippur." And then suddenly he sees a spot, and then he looks up and says, "Don't worry about it, I manage by myself already." So I meet a lot of companies who are successful, a lot of entrepreneurs or already made big companies, and in many cases they forget that there is this assistance. So I think that the most important and basic assistance that the government in Israel is giving, and it's pretty different than most other countries that I've been working with, is the concept of sharing the risk. The idea that taxpayers' money should not be treated with conservatism, and that risk-taking is part of the duty of government. I think that's what makes Israel stand out, and it's part of our success. And there are many programs, about 30 programs that are existing here in Israel, on how to help entrepreneurs, how to help the VCs, how to help incubators, how to connect the academic world with the entrepreneurial spirit, etc. So that, I think, is the first thing. The second thing is another concept, another basic concept, which is neutrality. So again, as opposed to other countries, and I visited recently a few countries in Central Europe, they define, okay, this year we're going to concentrate on cybersecurity, on this or that, biotechnology, etc. I think that our approach is to be neutral, that government doesn't know better than the market, or in fact, you guys, what is good, where innovation lies, and what should we invest in. But there are some criteria, and the criteria are, is it really something innovative? Is it really something new? That's the first criteria. And the second criteria, how big is the market? So supporting things that are new, and there's a good market for it, that's the direction. And I think that this, again, allows a lot of new ideas, new markets to develop. 4 years ago, who spoke in Israel about smart mobility, for example? There was a big program called Fuel Choices, talking about energy. Now that program has shifted and evolved because the market told us that it should. So this is the second principle. The third principle, I think, is was mentioned before on this stage, is the fact that we're always export-oriented. We think globally. Israel is too small. We can't just rely on the market here. So from the first moment, from the get-go, we think globally, and we have, as the foreign ministry, we have 103 embassies, consulates all over the world, which find it in their mission to help you guys, to help you find customers, partners, investors, markets, and I think this is also a great help to the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to you, Baat, and with a question. I just want to make sure that I have here all the titles that Intuit has. So Intuit is listed among the Fortune 100 best companies to work for, best workplace for diversity, and best workplace for women, as the only women on the panel. How does this encourage innovation?
I'm going to take it back a little and talk about Intuit and what makes us unique. Because it's a company that's 35 years old. It started with DOS. It moved to Windows, it moved to client server, it moved to the web, it moved to mobile, it moved to SaaS, it moved to IoT AI. And the way it did these moves and is still listed one of the best companies, and when you're both in Israel and in Silicon Valley, when you shop around a resume, you'd put Intuit together with Google and Facebook and these types of companies. The reason it did this, what I call ability to innovate, is because it's a very self-reflective company. It constantly asks itself, what can we do better, both technically and as a company? And it is very, very, very laser-focused on its customers. So we have methodologies that allow us to, and by the way, Lean Startup even lists us as, as the first use case in the book. We have methodologies that allow all our employees, and actually encourage all the employees, to speak directly with the customers. We actually have one of them called Follow Me Home, where we ask all the employees to go at least twice a year to sit with the customer in their environment, look at how they use our software, look at their problems, and take this back into the teams to allow us to all have insights on what problems we want to solve for them. So there's a huge focus on problems that customers have. And now when you think about it, if a very homogeneous group went to a customer's house, our customers, by the way, are small businesses or just consumers who are using our software. If we are a team that is very homogeneous, that is walking to a customer's house, and we all sit there, and we all go together as a team, we will most likely have the same insights. Whereas if we come both as a diverse group of, from a developer to a QA person to a designer, product manager, we force our HR and our marketing and our secretary, administrative workers, everyone has to go to the customers and live and breathe their problems. When that group is diverse, the innovation is mind-boggling. Because everyone shares the same situation and brings in their angle of what they saw and how we can do better. So that's how diversity really plays for us.
Excellent, thank you. Shahaf, there are certain processes that you're running inside the company in order to encourage innovations, particularly here in Israel. Can you share with us some of these processes?
Yeah, I can share one thing that actually amazes me. When we tried it, one day I went to my team and I told them, hey guys, we're doing a full week hackathon. And I gave them the product and I told them, you have no managers. Like, your managers are not really your managers now. They're actually one of the developers. And I told them, build it. And I came back after a week. And it was amazing to see how people that you thought would never speak or would never do, managerial kind of things, jumped up, wrote things on the wall, and tried to influence where we go and what we go. They took brave decisions, and in the end of it, people came back and said, you know what, I am an iOS developer, but I actually chose to do backend here. Or I'm an Android developer and I decided to build the iOS part of it because the experiment actually encouraged them to try different things, try, learn. And in the end of it, they didn't succeed. They came in the end of the week and the product wasn't ready. And I gave them another day. So I came back on Sunday and I asked them, okay, show me. And it still didn't work. So I told them, hey guys, it was the experiment more than the actual result. So that's good. And we learned a lot from it. And one of the developers couldn't stay with that situation. He worked all night, and Monday morning he came back and said, I didn't want to allow the team to, after working this hard, to be in a place where we couldn't succeed. So he worked really hard, and Monday morning everything worked. So when you give the group of people, as I saw the two presentations before, and he said that the team is the most important ingredient in a company. And I must agree, because to do something like that, for a team to take the opportunity to do things that is not by its nature, things that they didn't learn, and just jump on it, learn from their mistake, and actually come to the end and not giving up, is the team effort. And this is what happened.
Thank you. Any examples from your side, Ofer, about innovation processes that you're running?
First of all, I welcome you to meet our wonderful students out there from Hadera, from Tzfat, from Tel Aviv. They will present you the wonderful thing they do. But I can tell you one thing. I just came back from Philadelphia with a group of students from my school in the North Carolina in Tzfat. And we did a project with students from Central School in Philadelphia. This is one of the biggest schools in Philadelphia. They took the water problem, the problem that there are heavy metals in the water, and in what way they can filterize the water and find a solution to make this water back that you can drink them. And they did the research at the beginning overseas in Israel by speaking by Skype, and at the end of the way, they meet. Students from Israel went to Philadelphia, they get into the lab, they did their research, and students from Philadelphia came to Israel, and they built a prototype, they built a solution, a filter that is really give a real solution for the problem of water. And this is an example that how do you think about science project, collaborating with students all over the world, and using technology and take methods of learning out of school overboard. And this is, I think that the student has a great experience, and this is the way to learn, because today we are a global world and we have to expose ourselves to different cultures, different way, different methods, and we do it excellency. Again, I welcome you to meet our students. They're out there. They will do the work perfectly.
Yeah, thank you very much. Last question, since our time is already up. But to you, Andy. I mean, speaking about the multinational, the international look at Israel. You also work with a lot of delegations coming from municipalities and governments coming to see Israel. What are they looking for? And one word about education technology, and how do you see this?
So we don't have a lot of time. I made a long list of things that they see here, but I think what really amazes them is the bubbliness, the fizziness of the Israeli ecosystem, how much communication, how much networks, how much the flat our social ladder is here. Every day there are like 20 different forums and conferences and opportunities for people to meet and exchange ideas. Not so much compete with each other, but collaborate with each other. And I think this is really what impresses them and makes a big impression. As far as education technology, there is more and more interest in that. I cannot say it's number one, but there is more interest in that because the understanding that education needs to be disrupted is now a common knowledge all over the world, but a lot of places they're still conservative. It's government, it's slow, it's lazy, it's not efficient always, and there is that understanding. And when they are looking where in the world can we look for this next big thing, based on experience from other sectors, I think they're starting to come to Israel as well on educational technology.
Shahaf, Baat, Ofer, Andy, thank you very much for your participation in this panel. Thank you everybody for being here with us, and thanks EdTech.